Good evening and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. There is some problems with X/Twitter this evening, so this might not be going out on there now. It's been down. It's not because of us. It's because of Elon Musk, so blame Elon. Welcome everyone back. This is our first talk show since the Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, which I was there, as you probably have already all realized. It was a very fun time, but Andrew and Adam have been doing some fantastic work, some fantastic videos in regards to the NFL draft that is coming up very soon in April, end of April 26th. I could be wrong, could be April 24th. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they have been doing some fantastic work. So make sure you go catch that over on our YouTube channel right now and on our socials as well. We are back for week one of NFL free agency, and this is a very fluid episode. If you haven't watched it before, if you don't know and you haven't got notifications turned on Twitter, it's going off at the minute. Everything's going wild. The NFL is going wild, and it's fantastic. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics. Yeah, we might not talk about your team. Yeah, we might not talk about your players. Tough shit. We talk about what happens as it goes and the important, interesting things, not the fact that Dan Moore has gone to the Tennessee Titans. If you want to find out more about that, go to our Twitter page. If you can. Again, Elon may block you. The biggest news that's just come out in the last 6 minutes is the signing of a quarterback from the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold, going to the Seattle Seahawks. It is a deal rumored to be around 3 years, worth close to $100 million. Andrew, I'll start you off with. In fact, we've got a bit more of a confirmation on this. $100.5 million with $55 million guaranteed and $37.5 million in year one. That's courtesy of Ian Rappaport as that's coming in. Andrew, not a surprise that he landed in Seattle. We knew he was maybe going somewhere. I mean, a lot of these players are being released. We're probably going to theorize where some of these players may go. It does sometimes tend to end up them just going back to the team. What do you make of Sam going to Seattle?
Well, this is the exact deal that I called to my friend that I was chatting to last week. He's a Seattle Seahawks fan. I said to him, any chance that you reckon you'll keep Geno? I reckon he's going to get traded. And he said, no, not a chance. I said, yeah, you're not bringing back a 35-year-old. You're going to get rid of him, save it on the cap. And he went, well, who can we bring in? And Darnold was the guy I said. He seemed quite happy with it as well, with me saying that. A lot of people are saying it's not an upgrade or, he's not as good. But he played well last year. The skill set is there and he's a lot younger. So they can build around this guy. You can't build around Geno anymore. He's too old to do that and too expensive to invest in a 35-year-old. So I think this is the perfect fit and the perfect replacement for Geno in Seattle. They're going to rely on the run game, aren't they?
Well, yeah, like you said, Seattle have had a big week this week. I mean, cutting Tyler Lockett, long-standing veteran wide receiver. They trade DK Metcalf, Adam, to the Seattle Steelers, to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick. They trade Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders. Can't remember what the pick was for him, though. Was it a fourth?
Third?
For who?
For Geno Smith.
Third
round pick. So they trade him as well. It looks like they're sort of passing to whole self-destruct. They're not crazy high in the draft to maybe go for a quarterback. They could do it in the second round pick, I suppose. But now they've put pen to paper for Sam Darnold. A contract that I immediately said this as soon as me and Andrew obviously were just talking about it prior to coming on camera. I said immediately, this is the contract that I think everyone thought he was going to get. It's very similar to Baker Mayfield's one in Tampa. It's not over bloated. It's about the right amount of years. I mean, he had a fantastic year in Minnesota, didn't he, Adam? It's now, can this continue?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be a case of how does he do now that he's going to be in Seattle? I mean, there are question marks about that. It's outside the Vikings. It wasn't, I mean, that is a question mark that's going to be there. He struggled in New York, which of course was outside as well. So, that's something to have a slight concern over. As Andrew said, I think from the Seattle point of view, it's just about team building, isn't it? And just sort of like going to a younger guy. So I can understand why they've made the change. But it does feel like they've kind of blown it up a little bit, which I don't think they really needed to do. But yeah, I mean, Darnold, as you say, can he continue to do it or not? I have my doubts.
You don't think you can do it?
I think he's had one good year.
Yeah.
So I have my doubts. He had a very good offense with him with the Vikings. When you think about them receivers, think about the O-line wasn't fantastic, but it was solid sort of thing. So it was okay. Who's he got at Seattle now? JSN. That's it at the moment. So it is a little bit of a concern. I think that when it comes to Seattle, I do believe that the theory is Mike McDonald's going to go down the Ravens style of play, which is obviously where he's come from. So it's going to be like heavy run game, receiving core maybe doesn't need to be so fantastic, and then obviously use the tight ends. So I feel like they'll probably go for some tight ends as well. But yeah, I'm not 100% sold on him. He's definitely not Lamar Jackson. So I don't think it's going to be a complete Ravens style offense.
Well, we've got, like, looking at their depth chart now, I mean, yeah, like you said, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Derek Young, Jake Bobo, Noah Fant. You got the running back duo, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, of course. Okay, if I do sort of pause, it's because Twitter's saying something about someone signing. This time it meant it was a nothing thing. Next time it may be a big thing.
I don't know. There's one thing for you.
Have I missed something?
You've just signed Darius Slay.
Oh, have we?
Wow, that's quite big news.
That's not popped up on my Twitter as of yet.
Dov Kleiman and Schultz Report have both come out and said that the Steelers have signed Darius Slay.
Okay, interesting. We can move on to that. I was looking at Eric Murray going to the Jags, which
oh yeah, no, even I didn't go there. No offense to Eric Murray, but
yeah, I mean, yeah. And we've released Larry Ogunjobi apparently, as I've just seen on another little thing there. Sorry, moving back to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, like you said, Andrew, like the focus it seems now for this team is to go full run, balls to the wall on that now, really, doesn't it? Because I mean, Charbonnet was fantastic last year's season, and Kenneth Walker is good when he's on the field. Is the only problem. I mean, draft wise, when you're looking at this, you know, they've not got the highest pick, but they've got a decent pick to maybe go and get a wide receiver. You know, you could argue they could draft a running back where they are. Maybe it's seen as a little high because it's quite a deep class. I mean, what do you see going forward for this team?
Well, depending on what else they're going to bring in free agency. I mean, me and Adam spoke heavily on this being a team that needs to invest in O-line, D-line. And with bringing in Sam Darnold and wanting to focus on the run game, O-line would then still be an area of concern for me that you need to make sure is as strong as possible if you want the run game to work. So that interior of the O-line, I know they've got Charles Cross and Abraham as well. So, you know, they have got some solid young guys on there, but I think they do need to focus on O-line, D-line. But wide receiver now it is become a bit more apparent. Yes, they've got their wide receiver one, so they're looking for a complement. I think they can maybe do that in maybe the second round in the draft, so they don't have to hit hard in the first round. I don't think necessarily for a wide receiver. I think they can address that in the second round and maybe stick to the plan, like I said, with McDonald as well. O-line, D-line is build the trenches, get that set, and then bring in some nice pieces around that.
Just quickly, do you think that because now that with Metcalf not there, it does kind of feel very much like second, third round, it's going to be Jaden Higgins or Alec Ianamore? Kind of seems like the logical move.
Which colleges are they from?
So you've got a guy from Stanford and the other one's from Iowa State. So both bigger guys, bigger bodied guys. We likened to them as an outside alpha sort of physique. So they're definitely what you're going to want to replace because Jackson Smith and Jig was more of that inside guy, the speedy sort of route runner in the middle. So, yeah, I can see those two names being perfect for them to bring in. I don't know whether we used Metcalf as a comparison to either of them, but we definitely said sort of bigger, stronger, muscly, tall guys on the outside that are good at contested catches, which is DK Metcalf-esque. So, yeah, those two players would definitely be on my radar, and they're going to get them second and third round. They could get both of them if they really wanted, couldn't they?
Should we talk about the Steelers then? Seems as it has been sort of the biggest trade news we've had, really, in terms of, I know Geno Smith was big, but, you know, DK Metcalf is seen as an incredibly premium wide receiver. You know, they traded second round pick, as well as swapping 6 and 7. At 6 and 7, I think they swapped between the teams as well. If rumors are true, Don Kleiman, as you've said, if the Darius Slay's gone to the Steelers, like I said, Larry Ogunjobi's just been released as well. Dan Moore hasn't been re-signed. He's gone to the Tennessee Titans, like we sort of jokingly said earlier, but that has happened. He's been paid, from what I know, quite a bit of money as well. I'm not recalling anything else on the top of Najee Harris, we don't know what's going on with him yet with the Steelers, Adam.
Well, apparently he said his goodbyes is what I'm seeing, but how true that is.
The news just before the Darius Slay news is Najee Harris not expected to return.
Okay. So, let's not talk. The Steelers fan won't jump right into this. Adam, you go first. I mean, firstly, what was your initial thoughts in terms of the DK Metcalf deal, and also then the contract extension on top of that, which is very lucrative?
Yeah, I felt like I feel like a second is fine. I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I know that the rumors going around was that the Packers was sort of like looking at him, and it was going to be like a third or a fourth and a player. But
so
I think a third and
to cut you off. Big news just come in.
Oh,
big news. Justin Fields.
Go on.
2-year deal, $40 million that do include $30 million guaranteed to the New York Jets.
It's going to happen.
That was the obvious one, wasn't it? That's been reported by a lot of people saying that he was going to be a Jet, wasn't it? So
2-year deal. I mean, it links the Steelers. It's quite a nice segue with the Steelers. So let's move on. Let's go on to Justin Fields. Just immediate reaction, I suppose. Then we can jump back in with the Steelers. I mean, as a Steelers fan and him playing there last season, disappointed. I'm disappointed he's not come back. I mean, if we don't sign Russell Wilson back now, for me, you only look at Aaron Rodgers or you look in the draft. Kirk Cousins is rumored to be on the table. I mean, heavy indication for we're going to go Aaron Rodgers. But from a Steelers point of view here, I mean, there's been no stability, even since Big Ben. There's been no stability at the quarterback position. And the Jets, a team, again, had no stability at the quarterback position. The Steelers known as an organization who is very well run and everything like that. And we're doing the most stupid thing at the most important position in football. I mean, Andrew, on to you. You're a big Justin Fields fan, have been a huge fan of him since Ohio State. I've been a massive supporter of him. You've always said this guy's going to come good somewhere. He showed notes of it for Pittsburgh. What it is joining an organization here that is in a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, whether the fit's right or not, I don't know. He's going to be behind a fairly decent, it's not horrendous O-line, is it, over at the Jets, which does help him. And again, it's maybe a team that might now rely on Breece Hall coming through and using his legs and a bit more athleticism at the quarterback, which is something they didn't have last year. So they're going to see something completely different from them. And I think one thing you got to like, they've got Aaron Glenn there now, who's come from a culture. And that culture is why they wanted to move off of Aaron Rodgers. Now, from his Ohio days and through everything he's faced in the NFL, I think Justin Fields is a really nice guy to have in the building to build a culture with. He had during COVID, he was the person that pushed for the Big Ten to play football and got the signatures signed for that. So I think he's a good guy for Aaron Glenn to build a culture with, which is what they wanted to move away from Rodgers for. So I think that's a good upside for them. I think they're going to be a new game plan for them. So to bridge the gap, I think he's probably the right guy for them in the building. And like I say, he's faced a lot of adversity with the Bears and swapping over there, settled in quite nicely with you guys, and now got a chance to really do something if he's given the reins at the Jets.
I'm going to have to say, though, the point that you two have absolutely pounded the table about for a long time is some of these quarterbacks need a head coach who's going to develop them with an offensive mind. I mean, Fields has not had that. He has not had that at all. He goes from the Bears, where he was under the guy who's the offensive guy, but he was really terrible for them, and I've completely forgot his name.
Matt Nagy.
Yeah. But Matt Nagy. who was terrible with him. He moves to defensive style coaches, the next few coaches in the Bears. He goes to the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, infamous defensive coach. He now moves to the Jets, who have just brought in a DC defensive, one of the best DCs around, admittedly, Adam. But like, is this the right spot for him? Because there is still development there for him. There's still development there. We know he's got some really great physical factors, his speed and his deep ball, but he's not been anywhere yet that has developed him more, right?
No, that's half the problem with it. I think it's as long as there's a strong offensive coordinator there, and I can't. Who have they got there now?
Who's their offensive coordinator? I can take a look.
Yeah, because that's what it is, isn't it? Like you say, Aaron Glenn's kind of going to be the defensive mind there. I don't know who the offensive coordinator is because obviously Nathaniel Hackett went, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay, yeah, so I don't know who it is.
Tanner Engstrad.
Excellent. So, yeah, I think having Garrett Wilson there, I think, is a really big plus. They're going to be able to, combine together again like they did at Ohio State. So I think that's a really big positive for him. But yeah, I feel like he is someone that is going to need a bit more sort of development, and he needs to be given a chance on a team where the O-line is solid. And I don't know if the Jets O-line is particular. It's all right, it's decent, but I don't know if it's going to be. It's better than what it was when he was at the Bears, obviously. So I suppose that's one positive for him. It's not a particularly big deal, obviously. A 2-year, $40 million deal isn't like anything amazing. So I think it's very much look, if it works, then happy days. And if it doesn't, then we can move on from him pretty quickly. So it's not the end of the world. I have to say, though, now that, you've seen Sam Darnold's gone, you've seen Justin Fields has gone, for some reason, there seems to be a lot of people waiting to decide what Daniel Jones is going to do, which is hilarious. But the fact that all of these guys are getting jobs tells you how bad the NFL is valuing the draft class of this year's quarterbacks.
I thought there was going to be more news then, but it's not just yet. Actually, Tanner Engstrand has... he's only ever been with, in fact,
he's from Detroit, isn't he? He was the Detroit.
He was the passing game coordinator.
Okay.
Was tight ends coach and passing game coordinator in 22. Was the offensive quality control coach in 21 and offensive assistant in 2020. So the first time OC with Justin Fields. I mean, that doesn't spell good to me, to be honest with you. And no. I mean, does this keep Garrett Wilson around?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it would. For me, they played together at Ohio State, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So I think the fact that they were, like I say, I feel like Wilson being there will be a benefit for Fields because they already know each other, so that's going to be a good thing. It's, but yeah, as you say, first time OC O-line, I wouldn't say is fantastic. It's all right.
They've invested a bit in it, haven't they? They've got
they've got. I mean, they got Vera Tucker there.
Last year, didn't they? Titman's pretty good. So there's some decent young guys in there. They just need to bring.
And they might go back as well and draft more. So I think they're not too bad on the O line. I just don't. I think it's better than what he had it with Chicago. I just don't think it's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it's a prove it deal, isn't it? Basically, it's a short term prove it deal, and hopefully he does okay.
They're not in a position to draft a quarterback this year, are they? Or you have to give up a lot to move up to one to try and get the guy that you really, really want, if it's one out of the 2 or 3 guys that people are talking about. So I think it's a nice move for them to do now. And out of all the guys that are available, like I said, it's not cost them a lot. There is some talent there. So I think it's the right move for the organization not to give up a load of draft capital to move up and draft someone. And Fields is young. So definitely it's a sensible decision for the organization going forward, I think, because if it doesn't go well, then, next year they can do something about it.
I'm going to take a segue now into a team actually rather than the player, because we said about in terms of like before the season started, what's the team that you should be really looking at? And it's the New England Patriots, you know, probably a franchise quarterback, most money, loads of cap space. I mean, and they've had this before. And last time they did this under Belichick, they were signing players and we were all a little bit like, what? Wait, what are you doing that for? I feel like the signings they've made today in the last few days have been really making some sense. I mean, they've brought back Austin Hoops back in. They've got Morgan Moses on a 3-year deal. They've brought Harold Landry in on a 3-year deal, who formerly played with Mike Vrabel as well, so knows the coach. They've signed Milton Williams today, obviously Super Bowl winning defensive lineman from the Eagles, to a 4-year deal. They brought in Carlton Davis, who had a fantastic year with the Detroit Lions. They also brought in Robert Spillane as well. I mean, Adam, we've said they were going to make some moves. They had the capital to do it. Do you think these are the right moves they should be making?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense what they're doing, because when you think of Mike Vrabel and how he is as a defensive-minded head coach, he's really sorting that defense out and getting it back to how it was with the likes of, you know, Spillane's a really good vet who's been around the league for many years. Milton Williams obviously was really, really good, wasn't he, in the Super Bowl and the Eagles' run for the Super Bowl win. And yeah, I mean, it does feel like he's kind of sorting out that defense. He's brought in another corner who can go opposite Christian Gonzalez, so that works really well. And they are missing offensive weapons, but I feel like maybe the theory is that if we can sort out that defense and get it back to being as strong as it can possibly be, and we can do other, you know, bits on the O-line and stuff like that, then maybe we'll just have to bring in a couple of older names. So, you know, it wouldn't shock me if they went for someone like a Stephon Diggs or a Keenan Allen, that kind of name, just someone who's a veteran who can be in the room, and then draft maybe a couple of wide receivers and go down that route. So I think he's doing everything that makes sense there, Vrabel, and yeah, I think it's just a matter of time.
I mean, what other free agents are on the way on out there still that they could be looking at? Because I think you're right. I think that the moves. I mean, do they have money for someone like Josh Sweat still? Do they have a look?
I think they're all right at defense now. I think they've spent their money wisely on the defense, bringing in those 4 guys. I think they're all very Vrabel as well. You know, shoring up that linebacking position that screams Vrabel, doesn't it? So I think bringing Milton Williams is the last one they needed to bring in on that defense with what they've got with a couple of youngsters in there. So I think their focus is, Adam's right. I think they're not necessarily screaming out for them to draft a guy necessarily at wide receiver, because I think Javon Baker needs a bit of time. He can produce the goods. And I thought Kayshon Boutte now, with all the troubles behind him with the gambling, has stepped into a role, and Demario Douglas looks quite good. So I think that they're some nice players. They just need someone a bit more veteran and wide receiver one for them. So I think maybe free agency now, they're looking at the wide receiver position.
Did Vrabel have Hopkins at Tennessee, or was he gone by them?
No, he would have done, wouldn't he?
I think he might have done. So that may thinking about linking these something, you know, maybe getting some, having the whiteboard out behind you of all the faces and names and the string and the pins in it, linking everyone all together. It could be a play that they look at. I mean, you know, it's exciting times. I mean, Sky's obviously not joining us tonight, but I think it's a really exciting time for the New England Patriots. And, you know, they're making the right moves. If they make the right moves in the draft as well, under Vrabel, it could spark something even more here. And we know what Drake May can bring to the table, and it's incredibly interesting. And let's maybe move on to look at some of the players who have still not found a home yet. Maybe some surprise players that got cut as well, who are out there. You know, Josh Sweat still not found a home yet. Javon Holland, Asante Samuel Jr., Stephon Diggs, as you said, Evan Engram, who got cut the other day by the Jags, who seem to be having a bit of a gut everything, didn't they? They released Christian Kirk the other day, who has that now subsequently been signed by the Houston Texans. You got Azeez Ojulari out there, Najee Harris, Jonathan Allen, obviously Joey Bosa, which was a huge one we didn't really see coming as well. I mean, what Andrew, for yourself with the Giants looking around, is there any players that you're keeping tabs on here, thinking, this could be a potential game-changing player for our franchise, even though there may not be any names in there that I think are like standout, but the culture guys who can bring something to the locker room, bring some authority. What players are out there that you think?
Well, I said before it all that we needed to really address the cornerback position, I thought, in free agency, because it was quite strong this year with the cornerbacks that were available. I know we brought in Adebo already, which is a nice piece. So maybe that's the guy. I know Jair Alexander was mentioned that we might be bringing in potentially, and a few of the other guys. I think Javon Holland's also been on the board for us to bring in that defensive back position too. So I think that's an area we need to address because I think although we've got Drew Phillips, really, really nice piece, the organization said then they're not quite ready to give up on Deontay Banks yet, who hasn't quite managed to live up to the hype. So definitely need to strengthen that cornerback, defensive back unit. I think we're one more on the D line to stand next to Dexter Lawrence would be really, really beneficial. But outside of that, I think the defense is okay, depending on whether we bring back Azeez Ojulari or not. But the main question for us is what we're doing at quarterback. What are we doing? Because if it's not Aaron Rodgers, then is it? Oh, well, we'll just have to draft whoever's there at 3, which is an option. It could be Jackson Dart, could be Cam Ward, could be Shedeur Sanders. I think that's a backup option for them at the moment. I think they're putting a lot of eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, who now has got a lot of interest from 2 other teams. So we're a bit more desirable than coming to the Giants and playing maybe your last year or your last couple of years with an organization that's not really in a position to go very far next year. So, bit concerning for us because that is the key position, and it's a bit up in the air at the moment. But
you can have Daniel Jones back if you want.
I'll pass on that. But yeah, if we get Rodgers, then like I say, I think addressing that cornerback and defensive D-back unit is definitely an area we need to look at for free agency. Bringing a veteran in to teach those 2 youngsters.
If anything, someone like Darius Slay would have been quite good for you guys, I think, actually.
No chance of Slay coming to the Giants, I don't think. I think that's I think there's a lot of what he's been through with the Eagles. I think there's a few of them that are there. I think Bradbury as well. They don't like the Giants and never have. So, but they're, like I say, who else do we talk about at cornerback for them? There's loads, isn't there, this year that are really top end cornerbacks in there. So just have a quick look who we've got still available
in the cornerback position. While you're taking a look, Adam, I mean, in terms of the Packers wise, it seems like more people are leaving than they are staying with you guys. It seems that seems to be the rumors.
No one's left yet, have they?
Oh, Jair Alexander's been heavily rumored.
Yeah, but that was I mean, we kind of knew that was happening, and it looks like that they're getting rid of Josh Myers as well at centre. So I think that neither of them are particularly big shocks, to be honest. I think for us, it's very much there were 3 issues, I would argue. It was corner, it was edge, and like a wide receiver 1. I think it comes across as though they weren't involved. They didn't make any contact with the Seahawks. They didn't make any contact with Devontae Adams's people. So that neither of them were obviously on their radar. So I think the wide receiver 1 sort of option is now gone, because I think DK Metcalf would have been that. So for me, it's very much edge rusher and cornerback. I mean, if you want to, there's quite a few edge rushers out there in free agency. We haven't done anything at all yet, which is no real shocker because that's what the Packers always do. Obviously, Josh Sweat would be great to get someone like him in. I would be surprised if they really went for it. I think Chase Young is probably slightly more likely. I could see them going for someone like him. I think Azeez Ojulari. I think that's another one that they could go for. They like nicking Giants players, so that's entirely possible. That's what they could do. And then at corner, as Andrew was saying, there are quite a few guys there. I mean, they could go back for Rasul Douglas. You know, we had him before. Asante Samuel Jr. you mentioned before. You know, Byron Murphy's around. Jonathan Jones. There's quite a few guys that are available. I don't think. I get the feeling last year they made 2 sort of like big money signings. I think that's what they'll do again, but I think it'll be edge and corner, and I don't think it'll be anything else.
And in terms of corners, Andrew, when you've had a look there, I mean, what were you spying for the Giants?
Byron Murphy would be the one on my radar. That is, top quality veteran. He's still only 27 years old, so would really push on and help the likes of like Deontay Banks and things like that to progress to the next level and help Drew Phillips. Like I say, we are very young in that. Newman as well at safety. They're all very young players. So I think they just need a guy there to show them the ropes, and getting someone like that would be perfect.
We've sort of hit the silent note on the news incoming at the minute, so we'll go back to a topic that happened of day, and that was Devontae Adams signing for the LA Rams. A little bit of a surprising move. Obviously, there's been heavy rumor that they're going to move off of Cooper Kupp, but they brought in Adams. I mean, everyone's saying, the only real team that ran the Eagles close in the playoffs. I mean, some people find it a little bit strange they've gone for him just because, Puka Nacua is there and everything. But, from my point of view, it makes sense to me. But, Andrew, what was your opinion of the signing of Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I think this just shows that when they brought Stafford back and he wasn't traded, that they thought they still had 2 more years of Stafford to push for a Super Bowl. They obviously think they can still win it. They weren't that far off last year. They had a good game against the Eagles, who eventually went on to win it. So I think that's McVay saying, I think we're still in the race. I think we've got 2 more years. Cooper Kupp's on his way out. He's no longer the player he was. Devontae, we need to bring in another wide receiver to go along with Puka Nacua, another wide receiver 1. I think that's how they work. And I think they've heavily invested on youngsters on that defense, which are all really good. So they're not paying any of the defense at the moment, which is going to be great for the next couple of years. So why not spend some money and bring back some guys on the O-line if you can, and spend on another wide receiver as well, just to shore up that offense, and which is where his skill set is with McVay. So I like the move. I think it's a good move. I think it shows intention that they think they're still in the hunt and still in the race for another Super Bowl with Stafford.
Yeah, it was a 2-year, $46 million deal with $26 million guaranteed. Adam, obviously a receiver, very well, being a former Green Bay Packer, and I completely agree with Andrew. I think they kicked the tires on Stafford last year and went, how far can we run this car? And he went, you can maybe win a Super Bowl with me if you just keep going, if we just keep plugging away. And I think this move makes incredible sense. Puka Nacua, I think, is a very good wide receiver. I do think he does need the complementary pieces, though. I don't think he is a one-man band, so to speak. And he gets that with Kyron Williams, who's been a phenomenal running back for them, quite underrated, I think, amongst most NFL circles. And then their defense last year, I cannot stop going on about Jared Verse. I just think he's an incredible player, and they drafted so well, and they built this defense over the last few years. And I think this is, like Andrew said, I think this is the Rams going, look, we've probably got 2 years. Let's just go right at it. Let's go right at them. Yeah,
absolutely. I think when you first look at it, you sort of go down the why are you trading away a 31-year-old receiver and then bringing in a 32-year-old receiver. It doesn't, and also giving him quite a decent chunk of money as well. I know it says 46 million, but it's 26 million guaranteed, isn't it? So it might not be as much as 46, but it does feel like a lot of money for a guy of that age. But he did show at the back end of last season with the Jets that he is still very capable. And I think really more than anything else, for me, I think it just goes to show that Cooper Kupp probably is on his way out, to be brutally honest. I think he's probably done, and they've recognised that, and they've gone, well, we can't keep him. We need someone to be here with Puka Nacua. And here's a guy who, despite the fact he's a year older, is still a really, really good player. So I think it makes sense. I think once you decide that you're bringing Matthew Stafford back and you're signing him up, I think it makes sense that you're going to go all in to a certain degree. I'm a little surprised they haven't gone for a corner. I feel like that was their area of need on that defense. Most of the front seven are very, very good and very young, but I do feel like they could do with a sort of like a veteran corner. So I would expect them to go down that route. But apart from that, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And, they've brought back Tutu Atwell as well. And, Tyler Higbee's there for another year. And I think he showed as well, certainly in the playoffs when he came back, that he's a good weapon for them. So, yeah, I think they've, in a way, they've upgraded, despite the fact that Adams is older than what Kupp is. They have upgraded. So I think that it's definitely a good move for them.
Well, a tiny bit of news. De'Ami Brown has gone to the Jaguars on a 1-year deal from the Commanders, which I know Adam has him in fantasy. So that's
keep trying to trade that little man. Don't you worry.
Just incredibly dropped, I think, going from Jen Daniels to Trevor Lawrence.
No, what are you saying? Are you saying horrible things about Trevor Lawrence?
There's receivers there, to be fair. No, wait, Brian Tom.
Yeah, so he's gone to be wide receiver 2 at a team rather than being wide receiver 3 or 4 on the depth chart at the Commanders. So
I mean, but you want him now, don't you, Fred? I can tell.
No, I do not. That's actually something I completely forgot about. Is obviously Deebo Samuel going to the Washington Commanders, and I had another one that was like crazy in my head that was like a few days ago. That's just completely gone off the top of my head. Deebo Samuel went to the Commanders. Something else big happened. But I don't remember what. It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway.
There's so many trades I've seen. I don't know.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, Deebo Samuel going to the Commanders. A decent move. For the Commanders, he's going to be wide receiver 2 behind Terry McLaurin. I feel like we've never really had a cement of like Ayuk's 1, Samuel's 2. I don't think anyone's ever really come out and said that in San Francisco. So his move to the Commanders, I mean, his upgrade at quarterback is phenomenal, isn't it, Adam? I mean, if Jane Daniels can stay on the trajectory he's going, I mean, Deebo, it was a smart move by him. He's not gone to a weaker team to get more money. He's gone to a Super Bowl competing team still.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's a different weapon, isn't it, for them as well? So it kind of it's for both sides. It's worked out really well here. I don't think Deebo is necessarily at the peak of his powers compared to what he was, but I think he's still a very capable wide receiver. And I think when you think you've got Jaden Daniels and you've got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, and now you've got him as well who can get involved in the run game, I think it really does bring in a multitude of options, but also he can be there as a wide receiver as well. And it's looking positive. It's only improved them, hasn't it, really, when it comes to the Commanders. They had a decent offense anyway, but it's only got better for them. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good move for them.
Sorry, the roll in the eyes is because I just remembered what it was and I was like, that was so stupid, like, obviously. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second because it's something in a minute. But yeah, Andrew, I mean, yeah, like I said, they're going to be back again. You can imagine the Commanders this season. They're going to come at them again. They've had that first season with Jaden. Obviously there's a little bit of a worry of like CJ Stroud from last year to this year where he progressed quite a lot, but then at the same time there was loads of injuries. There wasn't as many injuries for the Commanders this season. The season just gone. Coming into next season, if they stay fit and healthy, they keep their guys on the field. They keep progressing. Jaden keeps progressing. At the early onset, people will say this is going to be an NFC Championship team, right?
What, the Commanders already? What, you think the Eagles are just going away after winning a Super Bowl? I don't know. I think we said last year, just within their division alone, they've made a step forward, and then they're now challenging the Eagles. They're the ones to now catch them, and it feels like the Cowboys have slipped behind, and they're now sort of playing catch up almost, and the Giants are still trying to figure things out.
The Giants are in the changing room trying to figure out if it's the left sock or the right sock.
So yeah, it's the right direction for the Commanders, isn't it? They've got to try and challenge the Eagles the best they can, because if you're looking for a wild card spot because the Eagles have won the division, it becomes a little bit more difficult because there is some very, very talented teams. If you look at Adam's division as well, with the Packers, the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears. Obviously, people are talking about making a big step forward with the free agency they brought in. It's not easy when it comes to wildcard positions and winning all your games within your division as well. So I think they're definitely getting closer to the Eagles and moving forward. But saying they're going to be in the championship, I'm not sure whether they're there yet. They had a really good year. They need another year to prove it for me. You know, the Lions, when we were talking about them making the next step, it took them 2 years after we started going. That's something to watch. So I think they're on that. This one more year, and then we'll be talking about them in that thing. But Broncos have just got better on defense. I've just seen.
I know, Hufanga, the safety, and also Ian Rappaport. I'll do the deck Rice last night. Simmer down, buddy. Former Chargers wide receiver Josh Palmer, who has been a big name in free agency, lands with the bill. It's not a big name in free agency, Josh Palmer, Ian Rappaport.
It's a lot of money for him, though.
Sorry?
It's quite a lot of money for him.
They paid a lot. Yeah, 3 years and 36 mil is quite a lot. But I don't think he's a big name in terms of who's been out there. But yeah, the Broncos, God, I'm going to butcher this name, but Talanoa Hufanga, the safety from the San Francisco 49ers, 3-year deal contract worth up to $45 million, including $20 million guarantee, as per Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. Quite an addition there for the Broncos. They're really building an organization there. The player I completely forgot about, which is because it was like the first bit of news of free agency, is it's a shame that Myles Garrett hasn't gone anywhere. Obviously, money talks a little bit for the defensive end. He has stayed. Thoughts on that? He's teased it a lot. I mean, even at the Super Bowl when we saw him, I mean, I didn't ask him personally, but you could tell that it was that week that he said, "I'm looking to trade away. I want to go." I mean, money talks.
Yeah, I have a thought. When you're 0-6, right? Don't start complaining. You've chosen your money. Deal with it.
Highest non.
That's my thought.
There is some breaking news as a player that we have just been talking about momentarily, and that is Josh Sweat. He is joining the Arizona Cardinals. He has joined a 4-year deal worth $76.4 million, including $41 million guaranteed. That feels like a lot to me for Josh Sweat.
The positions pays well, doesn't it? It's it's one of the highest paid positions. So
I get people like Eagles fans will go on about how amazing Milton Williams and Josh Sweat were. Yeah, they were good for a season. They've been pretty decent for the Eagles, and I know they were pretty amazing. And obviously they had a fantastic Super Bowl. But a lot of these players had a fantastic Super Bowl, and I wouldn't say they're worth King Midas' gold. Like Milton Williams I think Milton Williams is a good player, and I think Josh Sweat's a good player, but do you
not think that? See, I've been saying this a lot today, where I've just been looking at it going, that's a lot of money for him. And do you not think it's just the increase in the cap? And it's just kind of got us sort of like
we said that earlier, didn't we, Adam? We were talking about this, and I just said, well, the cap space is just going to go up every year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're signing these players now on big deals, then in 2 years' time, when they're still under contract, people are going to be going, well, they're now currently the highest paid player, but 2 years' time they're going to be the 8th, 9th, 10th highest paid player because everyone's above them, and they're still going to be some of the best players in the league. So it's all relative, I think.
Yeah, it does feel like that. The problem is what you're seeing players, and I mean this nicely, as we were just saying, like you're seeing players who are getting paid like insane amounts of money. And you sort of think, I don't think they're really that amazing. And I think that's probably where we've kind of got it a bit confused. So, like, it's only a couple of minutes ago, Ian Rappaport came out and said that the Jaguars tight end Luke Farrell has agreed to terms with the 49ers, 3-year deal worth up to $20.250 million. Right, 11 million guaranteed. Did we see much from Luke Farrell?
Nope.
And yet the 49ers have guaranteed him 11 million. I know it's a 3-year deal, and maybe that feels like, maybe,
isn't it? I suppose.
I've got a question for you guys that's related to this. So we've seen now Crosby and then Garrett be like the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Where do you think this now sits for the likes of Jamar Chase, who's looking for a new deal? Surely with the skill that he is and how good he is of a wide receiver, he's going to want to be the highest paid non-quarterback, no?
I also have another point on that fact of a lot of people, I think when DK re-signed with the Steelers and got quite a big contract, everyone went, "Whoa, that was a big contract." I think the Steelers looked around and went, "Well, Cincinnati, you've now got to go and pay Jamar, and you've got to pay him a lot more than what we've just paid DK." So
I think you've got to make him the highest paid non-quarterback.
I think they will. Yeah, I think it will be. I definitely think that. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's ridiculous.
I think it goes to show how bad the Bengals front office is. That's
they should have got the deal done a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not just Jamar Chase, that's T. Higgins as well. I think they've decided to go down this route and they're getting rid of Trey Hendrickson, which I think it's baffling. It's the worst way of
their defense.
And Sam Hubbard is retiring on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. So you've kind of like you've basically gone, our defense wasn't great anyway, sod it, we don't care. We're just going to score more points than you, and it just doesn't work like that. But yeah, I think so. The only issue I had with the DK Metcalf trade, I didn't have a problem with the second round pick. I think that's fair enough. Personally, I wouldn't have wanted a receiver on a 5-year, $150 million deal, because I think that's a hell of a lot of money, and you are stuck with him for 5 years now, and that's tough to sort of like work the money out. Obviously, the hope and the theory is that the cap just keeps going up, so it kind of works out. But yeah, there probably was an element of, we're going to pay him $33 million a year. Well, now you're going to have to pay Jamar Chase even more. And the whole the thing with Myles Garrett as well. It's like, didn't they come out and say, the Bengals? Isn't there one of their main front office guys? There's a video out there that we are going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback player. And you just sort of think, well, Myles Garrett has now just done $40 million a year. What's Micah Parsons going to be?
Traded.
They
can't afford him now.
But if he gets traded, what's he going to be? He's at the new team sort of thing. They're going to pay either the same or more than that. So again, do you then end up with a point where Chase could have probably been 36 million, 37 million, around that sort of mark? Now you've got 40. If they don't get their arse into gear, are they going to suddenly find that Micah Parsons is going to get a deal and he's going to be like 40 and a half or 41? Are they going to have to pay him like 42, 43 million just because he's the highest paid player? Because they've actually come out and said they're going to do it anyway. It's just really bad. The front office is poor. It's a bad team building, and a lot of this should have been done a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's what Justin Jefferson was paid, wasn't it? 35 million a year, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a double-edged sort of question. But if you were running an organization, what would you prioritize paying, the wide receiver or the edge?
Me, the edge.
Both of you.
Yeah.
If you've got Jamar Chase, the edge. That's my point. If you've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on that side, you don't need to franchise tag T. Higgins unless you're going to trade him, of course.
Yeah.
But you don't need to spend that much, because he's going to want a big deal as well. Like he's going to look at it and go, well, hang on a minute, I'm DK Metcalf money. So he's going to want that sort of number. You can't. So yeah, you go with the edge. And I know that
there's three
Hendrickson's getting
positions,
older, but even still,
there's three positions that you have to
Yeah.
prioritize: quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher. You have
Yeah.
to get those three. Wide receivers are going to come and go, and you'll find absolute gold in the draft, even if it's a weak class. You're going to find wide receivers that fit, and you can get the ball to. You know, the Patriots did it. You've seen the Chiefs do it. It's possible to just put people out there and get success, but you have to have a good quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher. That's the core of a team.
Well, I'm missing something on Twitter, but like this Josh Palmer's not that big a deal to the Chargers. It's not. Like it isn't, is it?
No.
It's on the free agent wide receivers.
It's not fantastic. It's not massive. Well, I have to say, I don't think I've actually seen a photo of Luke Farrell before. I'm going to keep going on this Luke Farrell one.
Well, no,
he has got a cracking set of eyebrows. I'm gonna go that far with it. So it's like maybe he needs the money for the upkeep.
Perhaps he's just a really good blocker.
Maybe. I can't imagine he's going to take out George Kittle anytime soon from his position. So maybe he is a really good blocker, a $20 million blocker.
Hey, it's helpful if you've got two really good tight ends and you want to run the ball. It's probably sensible.
Yeah, that's true. Samaje Perine has returned to the Bengals.
Yeah, that was a while ago, wasn't it? We just didn't report it.
Well, we didn't mention it because it didn't feel that exciting. Is there anyone that we feel has been a disappointment, team-wise?
In what way? As in, haven't gone and done anything?
Well, haven't done anything. Haven't really.
Green Bay.
Well, they never do.
But I mean, like,
they've got a good team already. They've got, everyone's talking about how good their team is and how young their team is. I think maybe a classic team that never really does anything and get blamed for it. I know they've brought in one guy, but the Colts, lots of speculation about them. They've done absolutely nothing. Apparently, they were shopping Anthony Richardson, and no one's interested at all. And apparently, they want Daniel Jones, but nothing really happening.
Cam Bynum though from the Vikings.
Yeah, they brought him in earlier today, but it's been slow for them. I think a team that needs to make a decision what they're doing at quarterback as well.
And then I have to ask, because I don't know if we're wrapping up soon or not, but I have to ask for Fred. Are you prepared
for Aaron Rodgers?
Are you prepared for Aaron Rodgers?
And
if you're not prepared, are you prepared for Aaron Rodgers?
I'm prepared for it. I've got it in my brain now. I think dysfunctionally suits us better. You don't need a dysfunctional person at the Steelers. Your organization doesn't do that.
I think we do that completely fine. I think Mike Tomlin actually does a lot better than your organization would do it. That is not me advocating for wanting him at all. But if there was a coach, I think if there was a coach that he was going to go to in any situation within the NFL, Tomlin makes a lot of sense because he is a player's coach. And he's got hopefully, even if we don't bring back Najee, we will draft a running back. I can imagine at some point. So I think we do pretty good in the draft in that sort of sense. Do we then take someone like Marion Humphrey in the first? I think that's it's something that could be interesting. But then he gets a fairly decent O-line. He gets a competent running game. He gets two really good wide receivers. He gets very, very good tight end, and he gets one of the top defenses in the NFL. I can see where this is going because he got the exact same thing in New York and it didn't work out. So, but he had a first-time head coach under Robert Saleh.
Good luck.
I mean, I don't want him.
Do you not?
Good.
Who do you want, though?
The season he was decent.
I would have taken Justin Fields myself.
Hang on a minute. Did you say the last how many games he was decent?
10 games, he was all right.
When he just consistently threw it to Devonta Adams, who's not going to be there. Okay, cool. You can't have Justin Fields. I've moved on from you now. You can't have Justin Fields. He's gone. He's gone to New York. So who do you want?
I think you then look at just bringing back Russ for a year.
Okay. I feel like that actually makes a lot of sense.
I think that's what I would do. It makes sense with the DK move. They have a relationship together. He had a relationship with George Pickens last year. He played pretty well for us. For what's all being said, he did play pretty good for us for the most part. You get him for 2 years. It tanks. We get a higher draft pick.
You're going to draft someone this year, aren't you?
I would like to draft someone. I would like to. Well, our second round pick's gone. That's the problem. So now,
that's fine. Don't worry about
that's
that.
not an issue.
Yeah, but I'm talking about. I would see Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart could go in the first now, and Jalen Milroe, I think, goes in the second. But
I think you could get Jalen Milroe in the third, and I think you'd be silly not to take him at this point. I think he would suit your team quite well. I think he'd be really good.
Problem is, though, it's your theory. It's the defensive coach developing an offensive.
It's fine. It'd be fine there. Good running, good runner, great arm. Don't worry about it.
Worry about all the little things later on, I suppose.
Just not as accurate as you want him to be, but great runner. And you like to run the ball. And Arthur Smith likes to run the ball.
Well, thank God they brought DK Metcalf in there.
Well, if that's what I mean.
Well, if it's not that accurate, we've brought in guys with massive wingspans. So in the general area.
That's right. It's all a plan for Jalen Milroe. It all makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think it will. I've heard a lot of people say Tyler Shook. So we had him at 11th on our list, but a lot of hype from him. I've seen his name crop up quite a lot for the Steelers.
Well, inevitably, as we close out the show, there's going to be big news or news like a minute after we close, which is just inevitable. It's fine. We'll be doing sort of any reaction videos throughout the week if there's any bigger news that is coming. Last year, we did a show every night. That's not that sustainable, so we're not going to do that. So we're going to do a weekly show for the free agency, and then obviously we're going to be leading into the draft stuff. With Andrew, Adam, and Alex. That's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of stuff's going to be happening. More coming your way. Andrew, Adam, thank you again. Make sure you can check us out on YouTube and on social media. Like and subscribe our videos. Share them out. We'll also get this out on Twitter as well. It's just Elon's fault. Until then, enjoy the rest of free agency, and we'll speak to you again very soon.